How would your mom feel about your relationship?
I think she would be sad. I think she'd be looking at it long term.
Not 1 cent. Those 3 freezing words were not spoken in anger or raised voices. They were spoken in silence, in the quiet halls of Gatcombe Park. And when Prince Harry heard them, everything he thought he knew about his safety net collapsed. For years, Harry believed he understood the battlefield. He thought his fight was with Prince William. He thought it was about hierarchy, inheritance, and old resentment between brothers. He was wrong. The real threat never raised its voice. It signed papers. Princess and had stepped in. While the world watched the feud between Harry and William, a far more dangerous move was unfolding behind closed doors. And, known inside royal circles as the ultimate enforcer, had reportedly triggered an administrative blockade on the Spencer inheritance. The money Harry believed was untouchable. The legacy he thought was protected by blood, not crown. Harry always believed one thing with absolute certainty. No matter what happened with the monarchy, no matter how bad things became with his father or his brother, his mother's side would never turn its back on him. Diana's inheritance was different. It was personal. It was sacred. It was safe. That belief is now in ruins. The Spencer inheritance is not a simple payout. It is not a check waiting to be signed. It is a layered legal structure known as the residual Spencer estate. A web of trusts, conditions, and custodians designed to preserve legacy, not fund rebellion. When Harry walked away from royal life, he accepted the loss of the sovereign grant. He accepted the loss of royal housing and official funding. But he never believed he was walking away from Diana. He believed his status as her son outweighed his status as a royal exile. Princess and disagreed, according to insiders, and identified a category of assets buried deep inside the Spencer estate that changes everything. Assets legal experts describe as hybrid property, items that exist in a gray zone between personal inheritance and institutional legacy. Jewelry Diana wore, heirlooms tied to her public role, private possessions that only existed because she was Princess of Wales. Harry sees these items as his birthright, proof of connection, proof that he, not the palace, carries Diana's true legacy, and sees them very differently. From her perspective, many of these items were never purely personal. Some pieces were long-term loans from the royal collection. Others were gifts given to Diana because of her rank, not because of her bloodline. When Harry resigned as a working royal, Anne's position was brutally simple. You do not keep the perks when you quit the job. Under that logic, Harry severed his claim the moment he stepped back. The diamonds, the emeralds, the heirlooms. They stopped being inheritance and became crown-adjacent property. But the most dangerous assets were not gemstones. They were recordings, private audio tapes of Princess Diana, her unfiltered voice, her private thoughts, material that, in the wrong hands, could reshape history. To Harry, these recordings validate his role as her true guardian. And they represent an existential risk. She watched the Netflix series. She read Spare. She saw how intimate family moments became content. She saw private conversations turned into commercial material. Now imagine those tapes crossing the Atlantic. Imagine Diana's voice used in a documentary trailer. Imagine her jewelry worn on a red carpet in California to promote a brand. And that future was unacceptable. She does not see the vault as a bank. She sees it as a shrine. And she believes releasing those assets to Montecito is the same as handing them to a production company. That is why the freeze works, and is not acting emotionally. She is acting administratively. By redefining these items as legacy assets, not personal property, she has anchored them in the UK. Locked. Untouchable. Beyond the reach of Hollywood contracts. And that was only the first move. Because buried even deeper inside the Spencer Trust is something far more powerful. Something no one expected to be activated. A clause written generations ago, ignored for a century, a clause that does not freeze assets temporarily. It erases entitlement completely. And once Princess Anne found it, the fight stopped being about family and became something far more dangerous. Princess Anne did not move on impulse. She moved with files, precedents, and cold precision. While others reacted with anger, she reacted with structure. And inside the Spencer Trust, she found the mechanism that changes everything. It is known quietly among estate lawyers as a moral clause. In formal terms, a disrepute provision. A legal trigger designed to protect a family name when an heir becomes a liability. For more than 100 years, the clause sat untouched. Theoretical. Decorative. No Spencer had ever pushed the boundary far enough to activate it. Until now. Princess Anne's position is clear. The Spencer Trusts were never designed to simply enrich an heir. They were built to preserve reputation, continuity, and dignity across generations. Money was secondary. Legacy was the point. And is now arguing that Prince Harry crossed the line. In her assessment, Harry is not a passive beneficiary waiting for his inheritance. He is an active participant in what she defines as hostile commercial activity. Every paid interview, every attack on the monarchy, every private detail revealed in Spare. Each one logged. Each one counted. In Anne's framework, Spare was not a memoir. It was evidence. The argument she is reportedly advancing is ruthless. By monetizing his family's secrets, Harry has brought scandal and disrepute upon the very institution that safeguarded Diana's legacy. That alone, she claims, gives the trustees legal authority to withhold funds indefinitely. This reframes the entire conflict. It is no longer a family dispute. It becomes a breach of trust, a contractual failure, a case where inheritance turns from right into privilege, and privileges can be revoked. If this interpretation holds, Harry's old money safety net disappears overnight. The Spencer inheritance becomes conditional, controlled, frozen by those who believe he can no longer be trusted to protect it. Harry's legal team in California understands the danger. Challenging a British aristocratic trust from across the Atlantic is a nightmare. UK trust law favors preservation, not personal grievance. And Princess Anne's institutional weight carries consequences that Hollywood lawyers cannot counter with press statements. But Anne is not only looking backward. She is looking at Harry and Meghan's future. And what she sees alarms her. From her perspective, the Sussex lifestyle is not stable. It is expensive, aggressively expensive. A large mortgage, constant legal battles, a permanent security operation costing millions each year, a business model dependent on relevance and exposure, and believes that if the Spencer funds are released now, they will not be protected. They will be consumed, burned to sustain a lifestyle that requires constant income just to survive. In her eyes, sending millions to Montecito is not inheritance. It is a bailout. And then there is the risk she fears most. California. And is acutely aware that California is a community property state. Once inheritance money enters shared accounts, or jewelry is used in shared property, its legal status changes. What begins as Harry's legacy can quickly become marital assets. In the event of a divorce, those assets could be divided by an American court. To end, that is the nightmare scenario. Diana's jewelry, Diana's money, potentially awarded in a settlement. Sold, liquidated, used to cover legal fees or future ventures. From her standpoint, this is not paranoia. It is risk management. That is why her team is reportedly pushing for a protective trust variation. Under this structure, the assets would never be handed to Harry directly. They would remain in a UK-based subtrust. Harry might receive limited income for specific purposes, but he would never touch the principal. He would never possess the jewelry. He would never control the core of the legacy. It is a financial restraint, a permanent one. You may benefit, but you will not own. And to enforce this, and needs one man, Harry's uncle. the custodian of Diana's memory, the keeper of Althorpe, the man who once promised to protect her sons from the system. Princess Anne has reportedly delivered a quiet but unmistakable message. Loyalty is expected. The trust's purpose has changed. Funding Harry now would mean funding attacks against a future king. The implication is devastating. Support Harry, and you are financing the opposition. Lock the vault, and you preserve the institution. For Harry, this is the ultimate threat. Not just the loss of money, but the realization that even his mother's family may be slipping from his grasp. And as the pressure closes in from England, the mood in Montecito is shifting. Because Harry is beginning to understand something terrifying. If this blockade holds, he is running out of options. And the move he is now considering could burn the final bridge forever. In California, the news landed like a body blow. When Prince Harry learned that the Spencer vault was being locked, sources say his first reaction was disbelief, then shock, then fury. To him, this was not legacy protection. It was punishment. From Harry's perspective, the pattern feels unmistakable. One by one, the pillars of his old life have been dismantled. Military roles gone, royal duties stripped, his residence reclaimed, his public status reduced. And now, under the guidance of Princess Anne, the last remaining link to his mother is being threatened. To Harry, this is not administration. It is control. He believes the family is reaching across an ocean to discipline him for choosing a different life. He tells allies that the message is clear. Leave quietly or be cut off completely. In his mind, the blockade proves that his freedom was never real. That the institution still holds the levers, even from thousands of miles away. There is also resentment, deep and unresolved. Harry looks at his brother and sees abundance. William has estates, revenue streams, and a guaranteed future. Harry has obligations, expenses, and a business model that requires constant output. From his vantage point, denying him access to his mother's inheritance feels cruel, not protective. And so Harry is preparing to fight back. Rather than accept the discretionary hold, he is reportedly consulting American lawyers to challenge the trust itself. His team is exploring whether the moral clause violates his rights, whether freezing funds based on speech constitutes punishment for expression. Harry's argument is emotional but direct. He insists he is not disgracing his family. He is telling his story. And in his view, being penalized for that truth proves everything he has ever claimed about the monarchy. But even his own legal advisors know the odds. British trust law does not favor sentiment. It favors preservation. And Princess Anne is not acting as a relative. She is acting as a guardian of institutional continuity. In a London courtroom, that distinction matters. As this reality sets in, the financial pressure becomes impossible to ignore. Without the Spencer inheritance, Harry and Meghan's operation depends entirely on commercial success. Books, series, deals, appearances. Each project must perform. Each must generate enough revenue to sustain the burn rate. And that creates a dangerous feedback loop. The more pressure they feel, the more they must monetize their story. The more they monetize, the stronger Anne's case becomes that they cannot be trusted with legacy assets. It is a trap closing in from both sides. As the days pass, Harry is no longer defiant. He is urgent. He is making calls, reaching out to relatives, trying to keep channels open before they close completely. Because if the vault is sealed, the consequences are not symbolic. They are existential. This was supposed to be the safety net, the final backstop, the inheritance that ensured his children would never feel the instability he grew up with. Now, even that is uncertain. And at the center of it all is a single decision, still waiting to be made. A signature, a confirmation, a choice between blood and crown. When that decision comes, it will not just determine the fate of money or jewelry. It will determine whether Prince Harry still belongs to the legacy he has spent years fighting to define. And once that line is crossed, there may be no way back.